To get some reaction, speaking to Mpumelelo Zikalala, legal practitioner at Zikalala Attorneys for more. Mpumelelo, very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time as we really try and make sense of this matter. A lot of reaction has come in. The Hamas group, for one, has welcomed the decision to issue the warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant. They've called it an important step towards justice. Exactly how significant is it?
Good evening to you and also to your viewers. It's a very significant step. Actually, it means that the court is now taking serious its duties and showing its power to say you are not just a court which is going to sit and listen and take no action. We're going to make sure in instances where there's been non-compliance with a perfectly and well-put application, which was done on an urgent basis to save lives, not been attended to. And so if the issues or the court is not going to be adhered to or is not going to be respected, then the next punishment lines or next punishment initiatives are going to be issued, such as the ones that has happened now.
As we also try and get some reaction, we know that people in Gaza have taken the news with a little bit of skepticism. I mean, they've argued that they know the unwavering American support for Israel. As significant as the move is, one has to ask how impactful it will be.
Well, it would depend mainly as to whether the warrants of arrest that have been issued are going to be implemented. And remember that the ICC relies on party countries or the party or the countries that have signed the treaty to say we're going to execute on that warrant of arrest once it has been sent over to us, if that person or that particular individual happens to land within that jurisdiction. So it would depend greatly on whether what's going to happen from now on up until then. If maybe they go to another country, let's say USA, for instance, which would be an interesting one, are they going to execute and make sure that they're able to arrest them and bring them to The Hague? Or is it going to be a situation where they simply ignore what the instructions have been given? Yes, maybe their skepticism must be taken into consideration, but we must put reliance on the treaty that has been signed, the adherence or the allegiance that the parties that have signed the treaties have promised that they will do or they will act in a particular manner whenever a warrant of arrest such as this one has been issued. So it's important that each and every single party or country that has signed this particular treaty adheres and actions this warrant of arrest, just to make sure that they take whatever ruling that has been issued by the ICC very seriously.
As we gauge reaction, since this decision was announced, Israeli officials have slammed the warrants. I mean, in a statement, Netanyahu's office has rejected the decision and described the move as anti-Semitic. What are the legal options on the ground as we look at this matter?
Well, they could still go to The Hague and say we want to lodge some sort of appeal and see whether the warrant of arrest can be withdrawn. Or we are going to put up a strong case to say there's nothing wrong that has been done by our country or our president. There's nothing wrong that or there's no sort of initial provision that has been broken to what has been issued earlier. So basically pleading his case to say, I've complied with all the instructions and the order that was issued by the ICC. I do not understand why a warrant of arrest has been issued against me. Here's the evidence. You may have something that you have on paper, but here's what I'm providing to you, which may be a memo task, by the way, because a warrant of arrest before it's issued, there are a number of investigations that take place, there are a number of submissions that are there. They are also given an opportunity in order to respond and defend their stance, or to try and display the myth in which they are saying that, or maybe make sure that everything is done correctly and all the truthful facts are put on the table. But if you fail even after doing that, it means that you don't have a case anymore. So even though on a technical basis you can go back to court and argue a matter, but in this case it's an open and shut matter. There's nothing else that you can be able to submit than simply to comply with the warrant of arrest and let the due processes of the courts take place.
What about gauging the muscle of the ICC? I mean, we've seen in the past that others who were wanted by the ICC have indeed been brought to The Hague, but we've also seen the case of Russian President Vladimir Putin. There's also an arrest warrant against him, and he visited Mongolia and nothing happened.
Now, that's the sort of the Achilles heel of the ICC and the treaties that have been signed, in that in order for the ICC to be effective, it needs the full participation and cooperation of the parties that have signed the treaty. So if you're going to find one country saying that, yes, we know that you've signed it, we know that you're supposed to act in a particular manner when it comes to the warrant of arrest that have been issued, but we are simply not going to do it because there's much greater loss that you're going to suffer as a country than simply complying with what the ICC has said, then basically there's nothing that the ICC can do. Yes, it can provide sanctions to that particular country, but it simply ends there. So it's the effectiveness or making sure that the sting by the ICC is well developed maybe in a later stage. But for now, as it stands, it's more on a, for a lack of a better word, a gentleman's agreement between the ICC and the country that needs to effect the arrest. And if that gentleman's agreement is broken or is lost or is not honored, then there's nothing much that can be done by the ICC, and there's no greater punishment in which the countries are going to fear at a later stage.
Very well. Thank you so much for weighing in on the discussion, leaving the conversation there for now. Mpumelelo Zikalala, legal practitioner at Zikalala Attorneys.